You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. This is Doug Thorpe, and you're listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Today, my guest is going to help us with some great stories and experiences in the sales game. He has a new book that just got released, and I love the title, but I'm going to save it for him to reveal to you. His name is Gregg Murphy. Gregg, welcome to the show.
Doug, it's great to have you here. Great to be here.
Now, I really want to tell the audience, don't roll your eyes, don't touch the dial. You know, you're going to want to hang with us here and listen to this. Gregg's got some great spirit about what he's doing here. So as I teased out, Gregg, share the title of the new book.
Yeah, so the title of the new book is called Sales Sucks.
But Sales Sucks. Yeah.
Sales sucks.
I've heard that a few times.
But we also have a small heading in there. It doesn't have to. And so we like to share some of our stories of how we transformed new sales reps to be incredible top performers. And, you know, we took a business from about 300 million in revenue in a couple of years, turned it to $1 billion in revenue. And we like to share the story of how we did that, the pain points of doing it, and some of the amazing things we learned and people we met along the way to help us get there.
Yeah. Well, as most of my following knows, they themselves have had experience trying to build sales teams and find sales talent, and some of them individually are sales professionals, and that's great. But the vast majority of business owners struggle with that. And it's, the owner that steps in, creates a business or buys a business and has a willingness to lead a team and move forward. Sales may not be an arrow in their quiver, and immediately they're confronted with the idea, I need topside revenue growth. How do I get there? So, first let me ask, Gregg, how did you get into the sales game originally?
I started in the sales business. I started a solar energy company back in the mid '90s, and I didn't mean to. I built an off-grid home way out in the woods, and I've always liked the idea of energy independence. And so, as I built this system, people started coming up to my house and asking me, "Hey, can you do that for me? Would you mind installing a system for me?" And so I was not only selling the system, designing the system, but installing the system. I was horrible at the last two things. I love the idea of being able to sell and help people walk through that decision process of buying the system, but I didn't like the installation part. And that's where I realized that, I've got a natural gifting there, an inclination. And so I needed to find other people that had that natural inclination and gifting to install. And so that's how we started the business.
Well, and that's what might be the other side of the coin we're talking about. And that's what I see a lot of in people that, particularly independent entrepreneurs who either had a great idea or they have capital to invest in businesses and they go buy businesses. They inevitably have a lot of the other requisite requirements to run the business, but sales and marketing is not necessarily the one they've got. And that's usually the pain point. It could well be the place they stall out. A great idea doesn't go anywhere because they don't know how to get the message to market. And when they do attract some interest, they don't know how to process it.
Yeah. It is a common problem. It's the entrepreneur has the vision and the DNA for the business, and it's interesting. The entrepreneur or the business owner may not be the person that's best at sales, but they have the passion, and a lot of times they don't want to do it, but they're probably best to do it to get started out. And some of the mistakes that I've made in the past is I wanted to scale businesses and quickly, and I hired sales folks from the outside in. Well, what I found is even leaders, managers to come in and run a business, And we have a process designed for them, but I had to train them and help them understand the business to know how to communicate the value we wanted to present. And it hardly ever worked. So I've had over 75 managers, sales managers under me at one time, and then plus my own business where it was just me. And man, I found if you could find a way to hire from within, find somebody within your own organization that is a good communicator and train them and develop them, a lot of outside resources to help them become better at a sales skill. But it's that heart and that desire to take the entrepreneur's vision that gets lost when you bring a lot of people from the outside in.
Okay, I'm going to walk out on a very frail limb here. And I don't want people getting me wrong. I don't necessarily believe what I'm getting ready to say, but for the sake of the discussion, I'm going to say it. So I think it takes a rare bird to be a good salesman. There has to be a certain kind of fire in the belly and a look at the world that's radically different from most that I know. So where does that come from? How do you develop that for somebody?
I look at two key characteristics. I look at somebody who has a competitive nature. So a lot of times I might look at athletes. They don't have to be collegiate athletes. Maybe they like to compete at something. And if they have that desire, that means they always want to push themselves and make themselves better. So that's a key thing. And then the second thing I look for is coachability. If I have a competitive nature and then somebody who's coachable, you can it's I've got lists and lists of people. I think I've made probably nearly through sales process about 100 millionaires out there who have in the sales world. A lot of them knew nothing about sales, but I look for those characteristics, and you're going to know in the first week or somebody's coachable or not. And so those are the keys I look for. And I jumping on the edge here too, it's like I and this might sound a little disrespectful to say, but I would say hire fast, and then if it doesn't work, fire fast.
Mm-hmm.
You'll put so much energy into somebody if they don't have those characteristics. Salespeople can talk that they have those characteristics. That's the challenge with salespeople, right? And they just may not have it. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. You know, the guy that might be a guy or gal, no disrespect there. I've known some great executive sales leaders that are female, and man, amazing. But yeah, the point is, if they can often talk themselves into a situation because that is what they know how to do, but yet the real it's that pull through, get it over the goal line success that's the real question. And, you know, the higher the ticket to sale, obviously, the more difficult that is, the longer the sales cycle, et cetera. But how do you think let's say I'm an owner of a $10 million business and I really just don't like my sales effort at all. I'm going to go hire a sales director to really help me do the right thing. Where do I even start with that?
Yeah, that it is it's not an easy hire, and probably one of the most important hires you can make within the business. And so I would always look for track record in somebody, and in a sales manager and a sales leader, I always go for the fruit. Where's their fruit? Show me what you've done and validate it. Because they'll tell you they're amazing, but you have to validate it. They might say they, doubled sales. Well, what does that mean? Right? For them, it's like, what does that mean? And are they able to mentor other people? So I would want to talk to the sales representatives that they mentored and ask their input. Hey, share your insights. Was that manager a good coach? Did they develop you? Were they? And that's where I would go. It's hard. Everybody wants to find that golden ticket to that perfect sales leader. And when you find them, they'll do great things for you. But if you miss on that hire, man, they could really wreak some havoc in your businesses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm recalling an experience I had with a sales director, and I don't think I'm even going to tell the story. I don't want to I'm certainly not going to name names, but if I told the story, there'd be too much detail that would tie in. But yes, to your point, I've lived it and breathed it. I made a very bad choice and got fundamentally nothing for a whole year of effort, and finally had to let the guy go. But the other thing that I guess comes to mind in that is the notion that if you're a business owner and you're saying, all right, I'm sitting on, let's say, 10 million topside revenue, and I really believe we can get to 20 or 25, that's kind of my bogey on the horizon I want to shoot for. I would say hire the guy that's already done 20 and 25 and let them show you how to get there.
Absolutely. It's process is the key thing to acceleration. And so it is if you're going to bring somebody in, do they have a process to follow? Meaning I'm talking about a scripted dialogue all the way through to help people make decisions. Do they understand? Do they augment software into that relationship that really help customers make decisions? Are the key pieces. It's a part of my early success is that I found that because our minds tend to prejudge people when we go into sales calls or in presentations, and sometimes those aren't accurate. And I just hold that a lot of times my thoughts in that way aren't. But I have a process that's been proven. And so I like to share with folks, so you've got this, I got this process. If you memorize this process, what's in this document here, I promise you success. And I know it has success because I've tried it and I've seen it work, not just with me, but I've got history to show that other people have used this process and it works. And so having a process that's written, clearly defined, then what you do is you bring other people in and you train them on that sales process. Everything from like scripting to the phone call, to the initial phone call. If you've got a cold call, if you've got to go meet them for the first time, how to handle a board meeting if you're talking to a CFO or CEO, or if you're getting it's in-home sales and you're talking to a customer. Those are all easily processed things you can process and lay out that are coachable and trainable, and you can memorize them. And we've seen incredible success out of that.
I always laugh when I think about the sales game. I had an opportunity in my younger years. I took a summer job in college working for a guy that was selling vacuum cleaners basically door to door. Okay. And it is the classic old school. Yes, there was a script. We did training. He taught us what the script needed to be, what we needed to do. And, we were giving away a set of steak knives for everybody that took an appointment, old classic BS,
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot. And I'll tell you what was interesting. And what we had an outbound cold caller in the office, this lady that would just go through the phone book every day, calling people, saying, would you be willing to meet with one of our reps? And then it was an appointment setter deal. I finally had a chance. This was in San Antonio where I grew up. And at the time we had 5 military bases. But one night I got a call with the wife of an Air Force surgeon who is at one of the bases there, high-powered senior officer, surgeon, medical doctor. And I was selling the old Rainbow Rex Air. It was a water bath filter, not a bag filter, So I was demonstrating this thing, and he allowed me to come in the house, but he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He went off in the den, and his wife was just sitting there, and I was going through the deal. Well, he overheard what I was saying, and next thing I know, he's sitting there, and he comes in and goes, "Tell me more about this." And I was doing my pitch, and I was acing it. I was a good student and all that. And he said, "Oh my God, this is the system we use in the hospital to purify the air." He said, he looked at his wife and he said, "We're getting one of these right now." and And as part of the pitch was, as we got to the end, particularly with a close, well, who else could you refer me to? Who else do you know? And he goes, oh, hell. And he handed me his base phone book directory of all the doctors in the hospital. And he said, take this, call these guys, everyone. I promise you, every one of them will buy one. So I went back to the office and I told the girl that was doing our setters, I said, for me, don't call anybody except this book, and don't give this book to anybody else. And she filled up the rest of my summer with those calls. And sure enough, man, it was like 9 out of 10. It was like giving away candy. So it was a learning, though. There's something to be said about finding the right audience.
Absolutely. And again, it's like but you followed a process that was proven and it worked. And so that's the part, is finding people who are coachable, that are actually going to follow the process. And that's incredible success from that part there. We have a story of a guy who we were training in Hawaii. We had a pretty big team there. And so I had about 60 sales reps, and I'm constantly hiring and retraining new sales reps because some are coachable, some aren't. You always want to move them in and out. And we had this guy who was the nicest guy ever, and he just wanted to be liked more than he wanted to help a customer make a decision. You know what I mean? And he goes, I just feel so uncomfortable saying that. And he was giving all these discounts. And at the end of the month, his paycheck was really small, but he's just a great guy. And we go, Scott, you're so good. If you could just, that extra edge, if you just follow the process. Did I say his name? Sorry, Scott, if he's listening. And if he would just follow that process. And finally, when he saw his paycheck was painful enough with his buddy next to him, who sold the same amount but took home double the amount of money, he realized, I'm going to follow the process. And he did. And he's been very successful ever since then. But being able to compare other reps with their peer groups is a really powerful way of doing that, and to share the success.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the so-called top of the funnel. Back partly to my point, finding the right audience to talk to, especially today in the realm of so much noise out on the internet, social media inundation, and even now with the advent of AI, there's so many AI generated little ad spots, promotional things, just peppering us every day. How does a company wade through that and kind of stand up and emerge out of the crowd?
There's, I always go back to our existing customer base first. And, you can go hunt and find new people, and there's tons of great books and ways of doing that. And I firmly believe that, we should be looking at a minimum about a 35% referral rate from our existing clientele. And so that's a goal to drive for. If you're at 15, that's a goal to drive for. And so reaching out to our existing customers, marketing to our internal teams as well, and developing that is a critical piece to that. And because we spend so much money on inbound, because there's, like you said, there's a lot of competition out there for that. And so I highly recommend going after your existing clientele and having other options or products you can sell to them, or see if they have somebody they want to refer, creating a referral program. Boy, if you refer, 5 friends, for everybody I sit down with and meet, I'll give you $25. And then if they buy, I'll give you $1,000, or whatever that looks like. So instead of putting your marketing money in the big, in ads and things, it's like, turn that marketing money back into your customers and clientele and let them know that that's what you're doing. And they'll really appreciate that.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I'm thinking, I as most of my listeners know at this point, I'm doing a lot of work in the entrepreneur by acquisition space. And a lot of the businesses specifically that I'm working with are traditional home service based businesses. And I'm talking about electricians, plumbers, HVAC people, roofers, painters, cabinet makers, flooring, blah, blah, blah. And those are highly competitive markets. In the bigger cities, it's sometimes saturated with providers for doing that. But I have met and know some owners that are doing some amazing things in that referral space. And to your point, really pushing some of their marketing dollars to that audience. And it's not just about getting a repeat business from them, but getting that referral base and having the proper promotional incentives to get them to play in your game.
It's a huge piece. It's a part of that is even in especially speaking to the home services group here, it having a sales tool also within the home that on referrals that can actually show a customer, say, homeowner, if you really deliver 5 referrals a year to us, that will mean that in the for everyone that buys, you get what's $500. Let's pick a number, $500,000. If you do that every year for the next 5 years, you'll pay for your system entirely just through referrals. And we're able to show that on a scale that shows real numbers in front of them. We found that sets the stage for the customer to think about their friends and families and neighbors differently, and coworkers. And then they start driving business to you pretty quickly. We're developed this called Patter AI, or a proposal tool we're developing actually right now that's doing some of those things, and we've done it in the past. At our old company, SunPro, where we took a company from 300 million to $1 billion in 2 years. One of the key ways we did that is through this referral play. And you help customers see it. And we would show a map of all the installations that we've done in their town. And then you would scroll down in and we show them other referrals, and you click over their name and it would show this customer's made $1,500 from referrals. This customer made $20,000. It gets the customer thinking about their friends and neighbors differently, and really drove a ton of business for us there.
Yeah. Well, and the other reality of what's going on, particularly in an industry like home services, so much is word of mouth, because how often does a neighbor say to the other neighbor, my air conditioner just went out. Who do you know? Do you have a guy? And if that neighbor has a guy and you're the guy, then that's gold.
Absolutely it is.
And to your point, incentivizing that on the front end to be a little more proactive, where people are quicker, not necessarily to go do the door knocking for you, but as soon as they hear about somebody that has a need, they are quick to drop your name and let that be the connection, and tell the neighbor, oh, by the way, when you call them, tell them I'm the one that sent you.
That's right. Because typically on a referral appointment, we found that our closing ratio was double a cold lead. A new customer that just came in, because now they're buying from a friend and a relationship. Somebody's already done business with you. So now you've got a happier sales team as well. And so you could parse out, okay, who are your best sales reps? You would give them those great opportunities for referral sales. And that's how you build a loyalty in a team and really expand the business quite rapidly.
So, Gregg, let's get back to the basics again. I mean, we've touched on a couple of things, but again, for that company owner that's really struggling with that sales initiative, where does one really start to get it right?
I say in any sales org, whether you have 5 sales reps or 1,000 sales reps, you have what I like to call the mid performers. You have the top performers who they're just good, right? They know the business really well, and they can't help but sell. And then you have the lower performers that just aren't coachable and they're struggling. The biggest challenge that most businesses focus on is this low performer. They try to make them better. And then they put the top sales rep up there. Be like this person, be like this person. And that's tough to emulate. Well, our focus is what I've done is I've always focused on the mid performers because that's almost like your middle class of the tax basis. It's your largest opportunity. If I can get one more sale a month out of my mid reps, mid sales team, I'm going to accelerate my sales dramatically. And in a lot of businesses focus on that lower end performer, and it takes managers' efforts, it takes their time and energy that they're not focusing on the right people. So if you've got folks that are just taking a bunch of energy, boy, transition them because there's somebody else out there that needs that job and that wants to be there, and stop spending all this time with those lower performers out there in the business place.
That's good advice and good wisdom. And it's interesting. You talked about those three tranches of performers. And as my listeners know, I've talked about this before. I have it's been long developing, but I have a very firm observation about my own experience running companies and building teams. Your workforce at large always falls into three parts. You got those top performers, you got the middle, and you got the bottom tier. And I saw that ratified in a big way during the crash of '08 when I was working with a nonprofit I created for job seekers. We over time we ran about 4,500 people through our training and our program. And the first year we had been operating, the old banker and me, I said to the team, we got to run some numbers. I want to see what we're doing here. And when we ran the numbers, we only had a 66% success rate in placement. Now, this was still the tail end of the crash of '08 and, double digit unemployment and all that. So jobs were still hard to find. But we placed 66% of our people, but I wasn't happy with that. I said that's not okay. We got to do something here, and we started looking at the numbers though, and we could pretty well tell by name because we knew everybody's stories individually. When I discovered my whole third, a third, and a third got ratified, the 33% that weren't getting placed were, guess what? That bottom pool. Mm-hmm. They fought our training. They argued with us. I mean, vocally, emotionally, they argued with us about what we were teaching. They wouldn't do the work. They would show up with their $5 cup of coffee and complain about being able to pay for anything else. And, it's like they were just chronically unemployed is what I called them. And, but the other 2/3 found a way.
That's right. That's right. It's a tactic I would utilize a lot in, especially if you're a new sales leader. When I was a new sales leader going into a new business or something like that, and I would try. And if you want to get a process going, the example I had like 300 some reps when I went into this one company, and my job was to get us to go public or to get bought out in the next couple of years. And so I know that if I go in and I'm going to radically change the whole sales process, and I did, I had to, the top performer reps, that's where a lot of folks go and they try to get them to adopt it. And if they don't, bro, they're going to badmouth you what you're doing and it's going to hurt you. So I found good coachable mid performers that wanted to be better. They're so hungry. They go, I know I got it. I just need more help. And they go, so work with me. And so I would work with them and you would see success. And the moment they would have success, I would congratulate them. And then what I would do is I would put them in front of the rest of the sales team. And I would coach them. I'd say, so let's talk about your success. And I would coach them to say the success was really based on the process that the management team created for me. And I followed this process and it worked, man. If you do, please give it a shot and go for it. What I found is as people started listening to go, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's what made the middle class rock. Then these mid performers started to break the top tier. And then the top tier folks are going like, hey, how do I do that? And they even got better at their craft. And so elevate mid performers that are going to tell your story, not their story. Because a top performer, you bring them up there and they're so confident, they'll brag about how good they are, and everybody already knows. They're tough to emulate. It's tough to emulate that type of a swagger and confidence. Middle performers don't have that confidence yet, but they'll get it if they trust process. And so that's where we want to create ethical sales, that the customer has autonomy, that they can help make them make decisions, that a mid-performing rep can just go and kick it and buy a house and do great things for them and their families.
That's great. Good stuff. Well, Gregg, I think we're about up on time. I really appreciate you doing this. Tell people the best way to get a hold of you if they're interested in knowing more.
Yeah, so if you'd like, we've got again through our book, Sales Sucks. It's on Amazon, but we just hit the bestseller list here just yesterday, so we're really excited about that. And so you could get a hold of us through that book there, and also through Patter patter.io as well, which is our software company there. So love to help and answer any questions you might have and to build relationships with people.
That's great, Gregg. Well, again, thank you so much. And as always, folks, we're going to have those links in the show notes. So I'll hop down there and check it out and take a look. This is the point of the show. I like to remind people we do have a video version of this over on YouTube, channel by the same name. I'll hop over there, check out the archives. Let us know if you've got some ideas or recommendations for future topics or future guests. And if you yourself are listening and might want to be a guest, drop me a line, let me know. And that too, contact information will be in the show notes. So with that, we're going to say goodbye, sign off, go out there and make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.